Tech by Tips.
Welcome to another Tech by Tips video. In today's video, we're gonna get our hands dirty building a CI and CD pipelines in Azure DevOps. But before we start, I want to make a note here, an important note. Even though Microsoft gives you some services for you to use for free with a free account in Azure DevOps, I found this issue here that I think you should be aware of, because you will face that issue if you create your organization right now. Probably won't happen with organizations that were created before, but when you build a pipeline and you try to run it, the first time that you try to run it, you get an error like this. It says no hosted parallelism has been purchased or granted. And to request the free parallelism grant, please fill out the following form. And it gives you a URL here that you have to go to, and that'll show you the form that you have to fill out. So basically this is the form. You have to put that information and submit it to Microsoft. What happens with this is that people were abusing the free DevOps pipelines that Microsoft was granting to people. So they decided to put a limit. If you want to use Azure DevOps, they will give you a free agent that you can use, but you need to request the parallelism to be granted so that then your pipeline actually runs. So you have to fill this form, submit it, takes a few days, and then you get the needed parallelism for your build agent to execute. And as you can see in here, I ran it later and then everything ran perfectly. So I just wanted to make this very clear from the beginning, in case you found yourself in this situation. Alright, now that I have explained that, I'm gonna go and get rid of this pipeline because we're gonna rebuild it. So let's go here and pipelines, there we go, and then delete. And then we're going to put the name of that pipeline there and delete. So we're back to not having any pipelines. So that's how you should see it when you start with Azure DevOps. First of all, I need something to build. So for that, I went into the repos. I created a new repository called helloworld.net core, and I've uploaded some code that I wrote that we're going to build and we're going to release. That's the code that is going to be part of this project. And that's something that I created in Visual Studio Code. It's a very simple application. It's just a web page that says hello from Tech by Tips. And if I run that in Visual Studio Code just to show you, then we should see that it's just a simple page that says hello from Tech by Tips. So now let's go into the pipelines and then let us create a new pipeline. And we're going to say that we're going to be using the classic editor for this pipeline, and our code is in our Agile project, and we're looking for the repository helloworld.net core, and it's going to be the master branch. That's the only branch that we have there. So I'm going to click on continue here, and in here you have the option here to look for specific types of pipelines that are kind of pre-built already. So in here you could basically do like a .NET, and there's several options there. So you could build like a ASP.NET Core application, but in my case I'm going to start from scratch so that you can see how you do this. So I'm going to go with the empty job here. I'm going to create that here, and then this is the view that we get when we're building our pipeline. So in this case, this first thing that is highlighted here is the name of the pipeline, and I'm going to change that. I'm going to name this Hello World Build Pipeline. And we're going to leave it running in the Azure Pipelines agent pool, which is the one that is hosted by Microsoft. And we're going to leave it as Windows 2019 server. That's more than enough for me. That's good. And then we're going to click here where it says get sources. And this is another thing that is part of the pipeline. It's where you tell it where the code resides. In my case, we already said that. We said it's in the Agile project, and the repository is helloworld.net core. And it's the master branch. But here's something interesting. Like, you have this option here that says clean, and that tells the pipeline to clean the directory before running the build. So that's something that I like to do. So you can set it to true or false. depending how you want to do it. In my case, let's just do a true to make sure that it cleans everything. And then in here we can say what do we want to clean. I like to clean everything, so I select all build directories. The rest is fine. I'm not going to do any other changes here, so that's good. And then here would go the first stage of our pipeline, which is a job. And in this case, we specify what we want our job to do. So right now it's named agent job 1, but I'm going to call it, this is going to be the build project step. So now once I put that and click out, it has renamed itself. And in here we are ready to start. And in here we're going to leave the agent pool as inheriting whatever we specified in the pipeline. If we need to specify any demands, we can do it here, but I'm not going to do it. Then the execution plan. This is the parallelism thing that I mentioned before, that even if you only want to run in one agent, now Microsoft needs you to submit that request because you will not have the parallelism even though you have an agent. So that's why you have to do that. I'm going to leave it on none because I just need to run this in one agent. So that's it. But you have the option here to do the multi-agent. So the task runs on multiple agents, or the multi-configuration, which is another way. Then here we can specify how much time you want to give it to execute, and you can put a maximum of time where if the job is not completed by that time, it just stops the job, stops the pipeline. In my case, I'm not going to specify anything right now. I'm just going to leave it as 0. And then for the job cancel timeout, you can go here and basically tells you the same thing. Then for dependencies, I'm not going to specify anything. And for additional scripts, I'm not going to specify anything. Now, what do we need to do? We have a stage or a job here, but the job doesn't have anything to do. So what we do here is we click on the plus symbol, and then we have a bunch of options here. And in here, then you can specify what kind of thing you want to do here. So in my case, I'm going to be adding 3 .NET Core related steps, because when you build a .NET Core application, you need to first restore the solution, then build the solution, and then publish the solution. So we're going to go on .NET Core and we're going to click add 3 times. So we have 3 tasks. And after that, another thing that I need to do is I need to publish an artifact to the artifact repository. So we can search here for publish, and then we'll see options, and then we will look for the publish artifact options, and then we can say publish build artifact, and then we add that. So now in the end we have 3 steps that are building .NET Core and then storing that in the artifact repository. So now that we have that ready, then I can go and select the first option here, which is the one that says .NET build, but no, the first step, it has to be a .NET restore. So in that case, I'm going to put .NET restore. That's the name of it. Or if I wanted to look prettier, I can do that. .NET restore. And then we're going to say that this, the command that we're going to run is the restore command. And then we need to tell it which project or solution we want to build. In my case, the repository only has 1 project or solution, but if you had more than 1, you could do that very well. So you would put asterisk, and then CS project. And that tells the pipeline to build all the solutions, all the projects in that repository. So wait, let me copy this because we're going to use that again. And then for the rest, it looks good. I don't have anything else to do here. So now the next one is going to be the .NET build. And then we have the build, and we put the same path that we specified for all of the projects. So we're going to build all of the projects. And then after that, we're going to go into the publish. So we're going to rename this .NET publish. And then we're going to select the publish command. In this case, the arguments are different. We're going to do is we're going to tell it to publish the web project. That's already checked out. But then we need to tell it where we're going to put it. So then we're going to put / output. That's telling us that the output of that publish is going to be sent to the build artifact staging directory. So $build.artifact staging directory, that's where we're gonna dump the files that we publish, and then we're gonna zip those, so we leave that check, and then we put the project's folder name to the publish path, and then that looks good for the restore, the build, and the publish. Now we need to publish that artifact that gets created. So for that, what we're gonna do is I'm gonna give it a name, for example, publish artifact hello world.net core, and this is the path that we specified. So build artifact staging directory, that's where we're gonna drop it, so that's where we look for that, and we're gonna name this hello world.net core. That's gonna be the name of the artifact that we get at the very end in the artifacts. And then we're gonna use the Azure pipelines as the publish location, and we're not gonna specify a maximum artifact size. That's fine, it's not gonna be too big, so I don't worry about that. And now that I have all of this, then I can click on the arrow here, because I don't want to queue it yet, I just want to save it. So what I would do is I click on save here, and then I'm just going to leave the folder as it is, and I'm going to put a note here that says creating the CI pipeline initial version, and that saves that with a comment that we can go back into the history and see the comment in there. It was changed by me because I created it on this date, and it was an ad, and this is the comment that I put. So it's always good to make meaningful comments when you save changes to your pipelines, because that gets stored in the history, and you can always refer to that if you need to go back or make any changes. And now we have the tasks view here, that's important, right? But if we have other options here next to that. If we go into variables, this is where we would be creating variables that are going to be used by the pipeline. And in here you can create your own variable here, and you have the option, for example, here where it says settable at queue time. If you check this box, it means that when you're going to queue this to be run, you can actually put a value for that when you're doing that. And let's say, for example, you need to save some sort of password or credential or secret that is going to be consumed by the pipeline, you can do that too. Like if you see this lock here, if for example this option here that says false, I lock it, then it is not viewable. You cannot see it in the pipeline when you're editing. You cannot see it on the logs of the pipeline because it's not going to log it. So that's a way for you to store secrets that are going to be used by the pipeline. And if you unlock it, then you see it again. And we have the triggers here. In the triggers, this is very important. We are going to say that we're going to enable continuous integration. So I wanted to build this pipeline every time a commit is pushed to the repository. So in that case, I'm going to specify that we're going to be looking at the master branch. That looks good. You can also have the option to do it on a schedule here. So if you wanted to build like every day, for example, if you're in a company and you work Monday through Friday and you expect people to push stuff there Monday through Friday and you want to build it at the end of the day, you could do that here. And you can also do it when a build has been completed before. So if you have another build, this can be cascaded after that build is completed. So those are options that you have here to trigger the pipeline. Now that I made a change, let's make sure that I save that. And then put a meaningful comment here. Enabling continuous integration for as a trigger. Always make meaningful comments. That's saved. And now we go into the history. We see there's a comment there with a change that I made. And then here in the options, you have additional things that you can do. The main thing here I would say is you can put a description here of what the pipeline does. And you can also specify a format for the build numbers if you don't want to go with just an integer that keeps increasing. So you have that option there. Also, you have an option here to if you have a work that is in the process, if you want to queue it or not, if you want to queue it and start it or queue it and not start it. Those are options that you have there. And again, on the right side here, we see the default values for the timeouts here. So I'm just gonna leave it like that. And yes, that's basically all the options that we have here. And now that we have checked everything that we needed, now we can go back into the pipeline, and if we want, we can manually queue the pipeline to execute and see what it does. So we're gonna go here and click the queue button, and then like I said before, there was a variable that was checked. So if we go here where it says variables, we'll see that variable here, and we can actually change that value. But I'm not gonna change it, I just wanted to show that to you. And again, we're gonna leave it all as it is, and I'm gonna click here where it says run, and then we'll see that the pipeline starts. And if we click here where it says jobs, and we can see how everything is going with the pipeline. We can see step by step how everything is executed. This should not take long because it's a very small application, so we can basically wait here for it to do its thing, and then we'll be able to see the progress of it. And as you can see, it has started the build, and it has an initialized job that it has completed already. Now it's checking out the code from the repository, and now that it has pulled the code, now it's doing the .NET restore, which is part of the build process. And as you can see, it's using the .NET Core SDK runtime 2.2 and 3.0. For that, here's the process executing, assembling everything that is necessary, resolving things that are necessary, reassigning properties, and doing all the process. And it's done. Now it's going to start with the build process, which is about the same thing. So we're going to see similar output here, but it's going to be actually compiling the code that we have put in our repository to create the actual files that we need to run the application. And as we can see here, it's using Microsoft Build version 17.7.4 of .NET. Now it's determining which projects it needs to restore, and it says that it restored the Hello ASP.NET Core project, and it says that the build was succeeded, and now we're going to be publishing that. Publishing is pretty fast, so that was done, and I'll publish the artifact into Hello World.NET Core, and now it's finalizing the job and finishing the pipeline. And one of the things that we'll notice is that we get an email whenever the pipeline is run, whether it's successful or it fails. We get an email no matter what, so that should be coming up anytime soon. But an important thing and a thing why Azure DevOps pipelines are very useful is that you can always go back into a run and see what happened in that run. So the whole build took 1 minute and 38 seconds, and if we want to see, for example, what happened in the publish phase, because it was really fast, I can just click here and see what happens. And then for the publish, also again, we can see, I already see the email here in my mailbox. So it says build succeeded. Let me see if I can pull that out so you can see that information. There we go, that's a notification. And that's how it looks like when you get the email. You get an email saying that the build was succeeded, who started it, if it was manual or not, and if there's any errors and stuff, and what commit is relevant in this case. So that's what an email looks like. And yes, the build was successful. So now if we go back into the builds, so in this case it has number 4 because that's the ID of the build. You can see down here where it says related, we have artifacts here. So if we click where it says published, we'll see that artifact that was built. And just like we specified, it is named hello ASP.NET and it should be available to use for a release. So that's how you execute a pipeline manually. Now we configured the pipeline to build also on a commit, so we could actually make a minor change and push it to the code and then trigger a build that way. So why not do that? First of all, let me go into the pipeline to validate that. If we click edit and the triggers, we see that we still have the continuous integration, so let's try it that way. For that, let me go into Visual Studio Code, and then in here I'm going to make a very minor change. Let's say I'm going to put a paragraph here, and that paragraph is going to say this is to trigger build an additional built from CI, continuous integration. So now that I have here added that extra line there, I can go into the source control and it should, oh, I didn't save, let me save that. And now I have that change there, so I can stage that change and then make a commit with a message that says minor change to trigger a build from the repository. That's more than enough for me, so I'm going to commit that. And now I just need to sync that change, so that's going to sync now into the Azure DevOps platform. So if I go into Azure DevOps, I should be able to see that the repo has a new change and it's there. And if I go into the pipelines, let's see if there it is, another build number 5 started automatically because we pushed code to the repository and it's doing its thing. Again, the checkout was completed successfully. Now we're restoring the project. Now we're building that project, and now we're publishing that project. And once we have published that, we put that new artifact into the artifact repository and we finished our job. And this time, as you can see, it took 52 seconds, which is a lot less than 1 minute and 30 that took before. So yes, that was successful. That was fun. If we go here, we can always go back into the list of runs. So in this case, we have 2 runs, which is run number 4 and number 5. And you can always go back into a previous run if you want to check what happened and see the differences. As you can see here, it took a minute versus almost 2 minutes. So everything is looking good. You can see a reference to a different commit here. If you want to see what was built, you can click here and that'll take you to the commit and it'll show you the changes. You can go back again. And yeah, that's how you do the continuous integration part of a C#.NET Core application. And the video is getting pretty long, far longer than I wanted for this. I wanted to combine both CI and CD together, but we're already pretty long in the video, so I'm going to end it here and we're going to do the deployment part or the release part in another video. And remember, if you like the content, like the video, subscribe to the channel if you've not done it, share the videos with people that you think might find it useful, and remember that I do not monetize this channel, so if you want to support me to continue to create content of quality for you so that you can learn and develop yourself, feel free to leave a donation on the link in the description below. You can do it with PayPal or with the Bitcoin if you want. And that's going to be it for this one. I'll see you on the next one. Take care.